So when I got a call from a recording studio called Tequila Mockingbird, I got a call from Danny Levin, who's a Texas Swing Hall of Famer, and owns the studio, and he asked me to submit some demos for some commercials. And I said, well, I haven't heard of this before. And then when I went there and the doors opened, there was this whole local music community of people that were going in and doing whatever it was that they were good at, making this homegrown music that was being used for commercials and films and multimedia projects and other things. And so Danny said to me at one point, he said, you're going to feel like a sellout. You're going to, admit to yourself that you're, really kind of, and it didn't feel that way to me at all.
Well, you bring up a good thing when you talk about reputation and how things will come to you because of a reputation. And what a lot of people are doing now are the social media things, where they're using that to help bolster their reputation or help get people to understand. And this is not just musicians, obviously lots of people are doing it, because if you can get on Twitter and kind of talk about the things that interest you, other people gravitate toward you. I've seen lots of musicians using Twitter or Facebook in different ways. Do you have any things that you're doing, or do you know anybody that's doing anything kind of cool in that regard? How do you feel about that stuff?
It's hard because I spend, it's so easy to get sucked into Facebook in particularly, because you can end up surfing it so long. I think that's why
it's endless. It's an endless hole.
I think more and more people are using Twitter because it is limited. In
140 characters. It's very simple. The interface. Yeah.
Exactly. You have a thought. You put it out there, and it's shared by whoever happens to be following you at the time. And it's not something that you can end up going surfing all over the place. Obviously, you can find out what other people are thinking and follow whoever you want. So that's a good way to get ideas and shape your opinions in that way. Surely. Yeah. And if you can read something into, was it 100? How many characters?
140.
140 characters that gives you inspiration to pick up a guitar and write a song. Or
why not?
Book a gig for yourself, or anything that
it's free.
Yeah, anything that allows
awesome
you
and free,
to just stop the viewing something and receiving info like a zombie and actually put something out there.
So another thing that you did that I find very fascinating, that's one of these sort of periphery things, is that you have performed on Broadway.
Yes. Yeah, that was a classic case of preparation meets opportunity. And literally a chance meeting on the street was what made that happen. I had become friends with a talent agent and sort of a jack of all trades guy named Jeffrey Osborne here in town, who does sound, he does tour managing, he does booking, and I happened to run into him on the street just one sunny afternoon in May of 2004. And I said, what are you up to? He said, well, I got an email from this guy in New York that's putting together a John Lennon musical, and he was asking about it. I said, whoa. I want to be in that. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, I want to do that. I can do that. Is it cast yet? He said, no. I said, well, listen, what you need to do is, you don't know about my Lennon stuff, do you? I said, you need to go to my website, go to darinmusic.com, download the Fab Forgeries. This was stuff that I did when I first moved to town. I had this 4-track recording machine, and I had started recording all these Beatles songs just to see how close I could get with these, a couple of mics and whatever instruments I had laying around. So they developed this reputation as this guy that sounds like the Beatles. So as soon as he found that, he emailed Don Scardino, the producer and director and the writer of the show.
And I've heard of him through the years. He actually played a character on one of my favorite soap operas from the 70s, Ryan's Hope, and his name just keeps coming up, and then I read it on your thing. I'm like, that Don Scardino again. I didn't even realize he was the director of it.
Now he's the producer of 30 Rock.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. So he's had quite an interesting career.
And a wonderful, wonderful human being.
Really?
One of the best people I've ever met. And he was instantly jazzed when he heard the Fab Forgeries, and so he sent me a script, put me in touch with the casting director, and I went up to New York and auditioned. Had a great audition. Eventually, when you've got a show that you're spending $7.5 million on, and you've got big investors plus Yoko Ono involved, you're not going to take some guy out of nowhere and immediately put him in a lead role or anything like that. So what I ended up doing is I took a job as an understudy, and I understudied 3 guys in the cast, all of whom were playing John Lennon at some point.
Okay.
And so I had one of the hardest jobs of all. I had to learn every one of learn all of their lines, all of their songs, all of their moves down to the square inch, with very little rehearsal time of my own.
Had you done acting before?
I had. I studied theater at HSPVA in Houston, but that was it. For my freshman year of college, a little bit of acting training, but my path just took me towards music. That's where I went. So I wasn't involved in the theater community at all. And suddenly, 20 years later, I found myself
on Broadway.
On Broadway.
That must have been such an amazing experience, though.
It was like it was a dreamscape, really.
Probably looking back on it, it does seem a little surreal.
It is weird, except that it just felt right. It felt like the right thing to be doing at the right time.
Kind of a predetermined thing, almost. It just, with you talking about your background and the reputation you made for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a magical experience through and through. And of course, Yoko was there all the time.
What was she like?
Yeah, she was the queen mother. She was very sort of regal in nature, very reserved, but also very, very sweet, and a woman of impeccable taste and a woman of her word. My favorite story about Yoko was during one of the rehearsals, she and Don called me over because I had brought a whole bunch of books with me that had pictures and stories, and there was one book that she hadn't seen before, and she said, "Where did you get this? There's pictures in here John that I've never seen before." And I was like, I think my mother picked it up at Sam's or something. She said, "Could I borrow this?" I said, "Yeah, I'll lend it to you if you'll sign it for me." And
she gave it back to you?
Like months later, months went by.
I'd be like, am I going to get my book back?
Yeah, I'd written it off, and then one.
Well, yeah, you're going to let Yoko have it if she really wants it, I guess.
Yeah. And so one rainy afternoon, I was in my dressing room, and I got a call to come down to the stage door, and Yoko had sent her assistant with this envelope that had the book in it, and I turned to the cover page, and there's a big old scribbling on there, and some little drawings and her autograph.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's a special thing. It's going to be worth something, but I'm sure it is worth more sentimentally to you.
She gave us all iPods. She gave everyone in the cast an iPod as an opening night gift, and they're all like seriously outdated now, but you can see. I don't know if you can.
Yeah, I had one of those big honking iPods.
But you can see it is engraved on there.
Imagine Peace, Love Yoko 05. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You obviously want to keep that forever as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to throw some cash down and get an updated iPod so I can retire this and put it in a glass.
Definitely.
Somewhere.
You want to hang on to that. You don't want to lose it. That is really cool. And with all the talk now about the Beatles with the remastered CDs and the Rock Band being released, maybe there'll be a revival of the Lennon musical.
Well, in some form, the show got mixed reviews, and so it didn't run long enough on Broadway to be vested. But I got a lot of inspiration from doing it, and I've been encouraged by more than one person to create my own Lennon experience, sort of a one-man Lennon show.
You should.
That I would have to write it from the ground up. So I'm toying with that idea right now, actually putting some ideas, and it's just like thoughts going down on paper at the moment. But
that sounds like a good idea. That sounds like something I would like to see.
And something that I could probably put together and produce locally for a start, and just run a few performances and see what happens.
I think a lot of people here would be interested in that, and you could probably get a good groundswell underneath it, a lot of good attention.
Because there were a whole bunch of people that never got to see the Broadway show.
Yeah, definitely.
To satisfy some public curiosity.
Yeah.
missing day, just a couple of castaways. Didn't go to work today, no one's doing a thing. Yesterday, the finest of